Hey guys, John Friend here. My website's john-friend.net, and I also host a radio program called The Realist Report on TalkShoe. If you go over to my website, you can see the TalkShoe icon for The Realist Report right there on the upper right-hand side of the page, and I'd encourage you to visit it and download and check out some of my radio programs. Now, those of you who are watching this who are familiar with my website and The Realist Report, you'll know that I've talked quite a bit about 9/11, and especially the Israeli and Jewish connections to 9/11. And what you're looking at right now is a book produced by an art group called Gelatin, and the book is called The Bee Thing. And these individuals, this art group, was actually living in World Trade Center Tower 1 shortly before 9/11, in the months leading up to 9/11, in the year prior to 9/11. And there's been speculation that this art group was actually connected to all of the other Israeli art groups who were they were essentially Israeli military and intelligence operatives posing as art students, and they were connected to illegal drug operations. They were also engaging in espionage and essentially casing federal buildings and trying to infiltrate federal buildings. And they were even surveilling federal officials. And the DEA, customs officials, the FBI, and other agencies investigated these guys and sort of figured out this art student spy ring. And they arrested numerous of these individuals. Over 140 were arrested prior to 9/11, and many more were arrested after 9/11. And it's important to point out that on the day of 9/11 in New York City, the only people who were arrested in connection with what was taking place were themselves Israeli military and intelligence operatives. And all of these individuals who were arrested by our own federal government were sent back to Israel on minor visa violations, and they essentially weren't even investigated when it was very clear that they were tied in to what took place that day. And it shouldn't surprise us, considering that the man who was in charge of investigating 9/11, or one of the main guys, his name was Michael Chertoff, and he's a dual American-Israeli citizen, so he let his buddies go back to Israel without being investigated. Now, again, what you're looking at is a book produced by an art group called Gelatin, and I believe they're actually based in Austria, in Vienna, Austria. And I just opened up the first page here, and at the very top, it's written in German. There's sort of an explanation, and it's kind of like an introduction. This book is very, very bizarre, and it's very interesting, and I think it definitely is connected to what happened on 9/11. And essentially what this guy does, his name is Tex Rabinowitz, and this was produced February 2001, and he kind of explains what this Gelatin group is all about. They're four guys, and he talks about how their art project, their little art stunt that they pulled off in World Trade Center Tower 1, was very illegal, and they had to keep all of their activities concealed. And it's a really, really weird read. I don't want to sit here and read it all to you, but he's basically describing this art group and how their activities were illegal. So I'm going to continue here. I'm going to turn the page. This is the sort of the credits. It was courtesy of, essentially these guys were sponsored by Leo Koenig Inc. in New York and Gallery Mayer Kainer in Vienna. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So these were the two art galleries that sponsored these guys, sponsored the Gelatin art group. And if you look right here, it says Gelatin, the Bee Thing. And I'd just like to go through here and show you all what's in this book. It's very interesting. It's very bizarre. But again, I think it definitely is connected to what happened on 9/11. There's a lot of just really weird sketches, like this one. And I'll turn the page, and here's another really weird sketch. Here's what looks like the World Trade Center towers. It's got the big antenna here on the top. And here's where they were. They were on the 91st floor. And what they were doing, they basically popped out a window and built a balcony. And they were going to do a little art stunt on this balcony. They were going to photograph themselves. And it explains it in this book. But it looks like there's a sketch of a pig, which is really weird. And then there's like a man's head on like a cockroach's body. So some of this stuff is very bizarre. Here's more bizarre sketches on the next page. And what looks like a little bug right there. And then they also have some dimensions drawn out here. I believe this is kind of to prepare for their balcony At least that's what I'm assuming. Some of this stuff I really don't know what to make of it. Some of it's written in German, because again, this Gelatin group was actually based in Austria, in Vienna, Austria. Here's another sketch. Very, very weird. Down here it looks like it says fields, flowers, Flunder Ficken, I believe is what it says. And those last two words may be in German, I'm not sure. Again, more diagrams here. Looks like they're sort of preparing their balcony that they were going to build to perform this art stunt. More dimensions, more numbers and whatnot. Another sketch up here. And apparently this book is very expensive. I want to thank, I had a listener of the Realist Report actually send me this book, loan me this book so I could do this, because he knows I'm very interested in 9/11. And again, I think what these guys were up to, they may have been a front for the Israeli military and intelligence operatives who were perhaps preparing the buildings for demolition, or I'm not really sure. That's kind of speculation on my part, but I definitely think, again, that they had something to do with what took place on 9/11. Here's another sketch. And again, some of this is written in German, so I'm not sure exactly what it says. More figures right here. And then here we come to the first picture. And I'm assuming these two guys are with the Gelatin art group. And in all of these photos, you never see their faces. And it describes how they basically built an enclosure around the building the window that they were going to be using to build this balcony. And they used cardboard boxes. And it talks about that later on. Here's a really kind of interesting and bizarre picture that they put in here. It kind of folds out like this. So here it looks like the World Trade Center tower. Go to the very top and there's the antenna. And then look right here, there's an airplane. Does that remind you about what took place in New York on 9/11? Or what allegedly took place in New York on 9/11? Very, very weird stuff. Here's another photo. The two gentlemen, again with their backs to us, looking out the window. You can see the cardboard here. Turn the page. Now this actually describes what they did, and this is written on March 6th, 2000, so it started back in 2000. And it says here in the preface, the work of Gelatin evolves from desires about situations we miss and we want to be in. The project balcony has been developed from a very strong desire to step outside a window on the 91st floor. The balcony is about the feeling you have when you stand on it, and about the pleasure you absorb when being totally dependent on a structure and atmosphere you have created yourself. And then number 1 here, it says the project. Number 1.1 address says the project balcony will take place on the 91st floor of World Trade Center 1. Gelatin has a studio space there. The studio space is provided by the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council, and it's important to point that out. The Lower Manhattan Cultural Program allegedly had individuals who were connected to these other art student spy rings and connected to the State of Israel. So again, that's important to point out. Jonathan Elenov, an investigative journalist, has written about this, and I'm going to have a link to an article in the description of this video that you can check out. It goes on to say, Gelatin is on a floor with other artists who are part of the studio program. Gelatin space, the window where action will happen, is walled in with a system of cardboard boxes, and you saw that in some of the photos. And then it says, other artists sharing floor 91 do not know what we are planning and doing. The construction of the balcony and all other preparations are not visible for them. And then it says 1.2, the balcony. The balcony is a prefabricated construction made by Gelatin. One person at a time will be able to stand on it. The balcony will be camouflaged. It will be built to be as less visible as possible for any passerby on the street. It will be taken apart the moment after being pulled back in. 3.1, the window. One window will be taken out. The removing of the window is done in a professional and secured action. No constructive parts of the building will be removed or damaged. There will not be any visible traces after the window will have been put back in. And then it talks about here up on the next page, 1.4 documentation. Photographs and video coverage will only be taken by contracted professionals. Photographs will be taken from a room at the Millennial Hilton, and that was a hotel right near the World Trade Center towers. And then it says, the film rolls and videotapes will be handed to Gelatin. There will be no journalists nor press photographers. There is no intention to get the story in the media. There will be no pictures being published but by Gelatin. And then 2 is the day. 2.1 date. The project will take place next Sunday at sunrise. So apparently this was taking place in March 2000. And they were going to do it right at sunrise at 6:15 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. And then it talks about if the weather doesn't work out, they do it the following Sunday morning, I believe. So that's pretty much what it says here. Down at the bottom is very interesting. It talks about the publication of the book, which you're looking at. The publication of the project balcony will be handled carefully. There will be a printed booklet. The booklet will be released a couple of weeks, months after the event. Until this day of release, there will not appear any images about the project. And then it says, getting caught, number 4. This is interesting. Nobody but Gelatin is officially involved in the project. There will be an attorney telling Gelatin how to behave. There will be an attorney responsible to handle the case for Gelatin. And then it's got a number right here for Gelatin. I think 917 is a New York area code. So here's another photo of what they were up to. Again, you can't see their faces. You can see the cardboard here. Another photo. Looks like the guy sitting out there right at sunrise. You can kind of see. Try to zoom in here a little bit. Looks like what looks like a little like the tail of a helicopter right there. Here's another photo. Looks like here's the balcony right here. And then I'm assuming that's the Hudson River. And then here's sort of a cityscape of New York City. I'm assuming this is taken from the 91st floor. And it's interesting to note that World Trade Center 1 was allegedly hit by Flight 11, which we know is not the case, but it was allegedly hit on the 92nd floor, from the 92nd floor to the 98th floor. So just above where Gelatin was. And once again, Gelatin was granted permission to do this, and sort of, I'm not sure if they were funded by them, but they're, sort of working with the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council. And again, agents of this Israeli art student spy ring have been alleged to be connected to the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council. So was Gelatin maybe a front for what Israel was up to? Maybe preparing the buildings for demolition, or somehow being involved with what took place on 9/11. Here's another photo. Here's the balcony, it looks like. A guy standing out there. Here's some smaller photos. We're almost to the end here. This is, sort of giving their love to individuals who are involved with it. More about the bee thing. WTC.window.to. And then here's another photo, which is, I have no idea what this is. I don't know, they might be Japanese ladies, I'm not sure. I don't know if they were involved in this. It doesn't really say. It's really bizarre. And then the last photo is sort of a diagram of what they were doing. Again, World Trade Center Tower 1, 91st floor. Here's the helicopter that was going to actually take the photographs of these guys when they were posing or doing whatever they were doing on this balcony that they built. So it's very bizarre. There's been speculation that the World Trade Center towers themselves were never actually totally built, and that many of the middle floors were actually hollow. And you can see a photo. There's an interesting photo that you can see of the Twin Towers. I believe it was taken right in the morning, and you can see through them. You can see through the World Trade Center towers, like there's no floors in the middle parts of the buildings. So it's very interesting. 9/11 is still a mystery to me. It's very clear, though, that the State of Israel and an international Jewish network of criminals were behind it, and they've benefited from it ever since. They've used it to justify the global war on terror, which is essentially the United States and NATO destroying and defeating all of Israel's adversaries in the Middle East. And they've also used 9/11 to justify the total destruction of our Constitution. So again, this is Gelatin, the Bee Thing. Very interesting book. You hear rumors about it on the internet, and I actually have a copy here. I want to thank my friend Matthew for sending this to me, and I just wanted to show everybody that this book was real, and it's very interesting and very bizarre. And again, I think this may have something to do with what happened on 9/11. So just wanted to show everybody. Thanks for watching.